Netflix's latest release, Eurovision Song Contest: The Story of Fire Saga, suffers from a major identity crisis. It doesn't know whether it's a parody, a satire, a romantic comedy, a goofy, silly comedy, a heartwarming love story. I don't know. But stick around and we will give you our real take on whether this film has anything good after all.
Eurovision Song Contest: The Story of Fire Saga is a spoof on the annual and much beloved Eurovision Song Contest that's actually been around since 1956, but neither of us ever knew about it.
No idea, yeah.
Yeah, so this movie was a nice education for us. It takes us through that journey through the eyes of a singing duo who, when they were children, were inspired to become professional singers, maybe one day win the contest.
By ABBA.
That's right. They had watched ABBA, right? And they have a big old poster in the background to let you know.
Yep.
And starring in this movie are Will Ferrell as Lars and Rachel McAdams as Sigrid. This is a movie that is helmed by Wedding Crashers director David Dobkin, right there.
That's right, and that should be no surprise because, of course, this is a comedy, and Dobkins also has Rachel McAdams in this movie, and Dobkins also directed a slew of music videos, so that makes sense as well, since we have a lot of musical numbers in Eurovision.
So I will tell you guys that when I watched this movie, throughout the whole movie, I was thinking, to me, this is a mishmash between, let's say, Zoolander and A Star is Born with a little bit of High School Musical sprinkled in the middle, like right almost halfway through the movie.
That's pretty accurate, I would say. I think I wrote down as I was watching it, it's like a bad parody of A Star is Born, and mixed in with like American Idol, kind of musical numbers in the movie. For one thing, Lenny, this movie was over long, man. This movie did not need to be 2 hours, 2+ hours. I think it was 2 hours and 4 or 5 minutes. Something like that. This movie just hits territories that are just all too familiar. Stuff that we've seen before in this type of comedy. Let's start with the gender stereotypes and the old school tropes when it comes to gender stereotypes, like the childish man that doesn't seem to grow up,
as a failure to launch,
and the dad that doesn't approve of his son doing this kind of, having this lifestyle, and why don't you man up and marry and have kids?
And you see that in Zoolander, for example.
Rachel McAdams is like the woman who will do anything to get the approval of the man that she loves, and stuff that seems really almost outdated, and again, all too familiar things we've seen over and over again, and that's one of the reasons why this movie dragged for me a lot.
This movie relies heavily on stereotypes, in particular European stereotypes, and it spoofs big time on song competition shows like The Voice, X Factor, American Idol.
Yeah, and I think that part of the problem also, to add on to that, is that I don't know that much about Icelandic culture, and I don't know how many of those stereotypes are actually accurate.
Like the elves?
I want to say the elves and the drinking and the taverns and all of this stuff. But I almost felt at times like they were kind of like Americanizing some of the stereotype. I almost felt like this would have been better if it had been maybe a documentary about Eurovision as opposed to a fictional love story about Eurovision.
Right, and then people might get the wrong idea about, yes, it is flamboyant, because I looked it up on YouTube, right? It is flamboyant, and it is a serious big deal. But I wonder if some people might watch this and say, "Wow, that's a crazy event."
Right, exactly.
When it's a very serious event.
And I do love a good underdog story, which a lot of times this felt like, right? Because you're rooting for this couple to succeed, right?
Right.
But man, was this horribly written. I feel so bad for Rachel McAdams.
I agree with you on that,
who is a good actress, and I just felt like a lot of the jokes didn't land, and they were not funny. There was no character depth. There was no depth at all.
It felt like a standard Will Ferrell movie, for those of you who aren't a big fan of Will Ferrell, where a lot of the comedy is hit or miss. It's kind of forced in there, not very organic. Some things are contrived. Like there's a scene where something explodes and it helps propel the plot forward. I'm not going to reveal what that is, but I was like, that was out of nowhere.
That's one of the many moments in the movie where you kind of look back and it's cringy, man, because you're like, this is what's going to move the story along. This is ridiculous. A lot of ridiculous plot points. What did you think of Will Ferrell in the movie?
Will Ferrell was Will Ferrell. He's hit or miss. He's very over the top. You know,
I think he's going kind of downhill, actually,
really?
A little bit.
I still, again, I'm hit or miss with him, right? Like, Step Brothers was okay for me, but I enjoyed Talladega Nights.
I have mixed feelings about Will Ferrell, man. I can only stomach him on, occasions and when I'm in the mood for that type of movie. But I felt Rachel McAdams was underserved in this movie. I think she deserved a better role. And Dan Stevens plays a funny, flamboyant...
It's kind of like the douchey villain.
The douchey,
bad guy,
kind of like a sexualized male singer that all the women dig.
He picked up a lot of his mannerisms were excellent. You know, just the way he looked, the way he moved, the way he spoke Russian. You know, with the Russian accent, I thought was really good. One of the better acting performances actually in this movie.
And had I known more about like Eurovision and the contestants and the artists behind that show, maybe I would have appreciated the cameos more and the movie more in general.
I think
but I didn't know anything. You know?
Yeah, I'm with you there because there was a scene, like I said, that's kind of High School Musical-ish in the middle, and all these people started popping out, and I was thinking, I'm missing some cameos here that some people are going to be like, oh, look, it's so-and-so and so-and-so.
But
I don't know who they were until I looked them up after the movie. But it turns out that in this scene where you get a lot of these cameos, those people are either former winners or former contestants from Eurovision in the past decade. And so that scene is one of the, for me, redeeming qualities of the movie because I thought in general the singing was very good in this movie. Obviously they're using professional artists. This movie is, like you said, the comedy is hit or miss. I felt like, if this can be believed, that it actually got better as it went through, and there's a moment toward the end that kind of saved it for me from getting a terrible review. I kind of felt like that moment really punched home one of the messages they were trying to get through, if you can get through all the comedy there. So to me, it wasn't a complete terrible movie. This is a movie that you would enjoy, I think.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
Because of that identity crisis I was talking about. The heartwarming moments or the movie's attempt at closing chapters or closing conflicts just didn't jive with the comedy for me. It just felt out of place and weird.
Well, like you said, this movie does suffer from that, so you get a little bit of imbalance in the tones, but you know, I'm trying to say something positive about the movie because
I thought the movie was pretty bad.
Because I did have some laugh out loud moments, and you will too, I guarantee you. Some laugh out loud.
You will laugh twice the entire 2 hours.
But it'll be like really loud laughs bellowing from your gut.
Probably not.
So unlike my compatriot over here, I didn't feel like this movie was complete utter trash, but it was not a very good movie. I mean, I wouldn't pay to go to the theater to watch it. Thank God it came out on Netflix. And for that, I'm gonna give this movie 3.5 reels. What say you?
You are being irrationally generous with that rating. I would never revisit this movie, and that has a lot to do with my rating decision. This was all a territory that was all too familiar for me, and I was bored a lot of the time watching it. You're kind of right, I guess, that the musical numbers were like the highlights or the more entertaining moments in the movie. The comedy was just horrendous, though. And I am going to give it 2.5 reels.
You struggled to give it that extra half, huh? And a half.
Out of 5.
All right, guys. So he says not to watch it. I say watch it on a rainy day and you'll have a couple laughs. But let us know after you watch it what you think down in the comments below. And if you enjoy our video, hit that like button, share it with everyone you know, hit that subscribe button, and of course hit the notifications bell so that you'll know every single time we upload a video just for you.
Don't forget to look us up on social media. We're on Facebook at Real Screeners and Instagram real.screeners. And don't forget to join us next time for some more real takes on movies.
And I did nothing wrong, but I stopped. Eurovision Song Contest. Okay.
That sounded weird.
Lars is played by Will Ferrell, and Sigrid is played by the great Rachel